What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and we're back with another episode of Poker Hands. And this time, people have been clamoring for cash games, so we're going to do a cash game hand played between Tom, Dwan, and Antonius. On that note, let's go ahead and jump into the clip.
And then I had the brilliant idea of trying to help Patrik and Phil convince everyone to make it 500 or 1,000. And then I lost like 2 pots and was down 20,000.
Ivy raises under the gun with 7-8 off.
I think we should make 500 or 1,000 again, actually.
What, the blind?
I think that'd be good. A little 200 ante.
Yeah.
Our hand begins at $300 and $600 blinds, with Ivy coming in for a raise in the hijack with 8-7 off. Now, I don't have to say this. I think it should be pretty clear this is way too loose. Maybe open this up in the cutoff, but probably not. I think the button seems like the place to play this hand. If people know you're opening this light, they can start to 3-bet you a lot. And at a table that has Antonius and Tom Dwan, I'm not really a big fan of coming in for the raise here with this hand. So Ivy should fold, but he opens it up to 2K. And now Antonius is in the cutoff with 6-4 suited. I don't really mind either folding, 3-betting, or calling with Antonius' hand. They all make sense. Calling is a little better because of how deep you are, but I really wouldn't mind 3-betting, trying to knock the blinds out and isolate heads up against Ivy. Particularly if he's opening hands like 8-7, this is going to work out nicely for you. You're going to get a lot of folds, and when he does call, you're going to get to be in position deep with your hand. That said, calling pre-flop can't be bad. It likely is going to be a winning play, but you also open up the hand a little bit for Tom Dwan to squeeze out of the small blind. So I guess I prefer 3-bet. Don't mind fold, and I think call is okay. Now it's over to Tom Dwan, the small blind with ace-jack. He can either call or 3-bet. Both are fine. It will be way too needy to fold this hand. 3-betting, again, could be good, especially if people are playing this loose. Makes a nice bluff hand where if you get 4-bet, you can let it go. That said, electing to take a flop also makes sense. You're getting reasonably good odds here in the small blind, and you're up against some pretty wide ranges. David Pete folds in the big blind with queen-6, and we take a flop.
3 players take the flop. Gut shot straight flush draw for Patrik. Durrr's ace high in front.
Got deuces everywhere. Agree with it. Got buried here. Well, not that bad. I lose 20.
Durrrr bets out 5,700.
So I'll break even, you lose.
20, right? Oh, it's your big boy?
No, it's just my
It's
problem.
his big boy, right?
Ivy out of the way, and Patrik smooth calls.
The flop comes 3 of diamonds, 2 of diamonds, 2 of spades, and now it starts to get pretty weird. Durrrr likes to lead out of the small blind, representing I'm not exactly entirely sure. Maybe he's saying he has a hand like a middling pair that doesn't want to see overcards, but I don't really like betting those hands here on the flop. You want to check it over to Ivy and see if he's going to bet and try and take it down the flop, or if he's going to check it back. If Ivy has a hand better than you when you have a low pair, he's always going to call or continue. And if you get raised and you have a hand like 8s here, you're going to be in a really tough spot. So you should be checking all of his hands here and looking to play on some different runouts if it checks through, or maybe call or raise versus a flop bet. Not a big fan of this raise. Now Ivy elects to let go of 8-7. I think it's a good play. I wouldn't mind seeing Ivy mix up with some raises here with maybe a flush draw or a backdoor flush draw or 5-4 suited or ace-4 suited, or maybe even some overcards like king-queen. That said, when you have a hand as bad as 8-7, letting it go makes a lot of sense. Now it's on Antonius, and he has a couple options. To be honest with you, I think I like an approach of just calling with all my hands, and I think that's sort of what Antonius decides to do here because he does like to call. With my logic being, Antonius will only really have a very strong hand if he has 3-3 or 2-2 or maybe ace-2 suited, which really isn't that many hands. In general, Antonius will either have a draw or a hand like 8s, and those hands don't make that much sense to lead. Although I will say at the same time, I'm not exactly sure what Tom Dwan's saying he has when he makes this bet. It doesn't really make very much sense to me either, and for that reason, raising could make a lot more sense. But I also don't mind the strategy of playing a little conservatively in position here and looking to play some later streets. I have no idea why Tom Dwan decided to lead with ace-jack. It doesn't really make sense. If your opponents fold, they probably have some pretty bad hands. And if they continue, they're either bluffing you or have something strong. So I really don't know what he was going for, but he did go for it, and we're going to play a turn.
Durrrr's ace high, still in front.
My number's going the wrong way.
You have yourself a 50. You're 50.
What kind?
You have
50.
yourself.
Dwan bets 16-3 into a pot of 18-6. Antonius smooth calls.
The turn is an offsuit 7, and Tom Dwan elects to bet $6,500 here. Again, representing the story of, I'm not exactly entirely sure. I mean, at this point, maybe he's saying he has a hand like 10s or 9s, maybe a hand like 7-7, turned to boat, maybe he has a hand like 3-3. But he's not really representing too many good hands here. Weirdly enough, he's also not representing too many draws. Maybe he has a hand like a flush draw, like Jack-10 of diamonds. But in the small blind, when you call this raise pre-flop, you're not going to have a lot of hands like 5-4 or 6-5 really. So I can't really tell you exactly what he is repping because I'm not entirely sure what he's doing. And I certainly don't understand doing it with ace-jack. I could maybe say Tom Dwan's just being Tom Dwan here. And that's why he ended up on the milk carton. Anyway, moving on back over to Antonius. He now has 6-4 of diamonds and has a decision to make. Should he call or raise? And I like going with the same strategy when the flop. Let's just call with all of the hands and look to play some rivers, because you're going to have a lot of other hands that you want to call with, some pairs, and but really just pairs and flush draw, straight draw type hands as well. So it makes sense to call with everything and look to play the river. Let's see what the river is.
He's thinking a 5 or a diamond on the end. Instead, he bricks, and Dwan hits the best card in the deck, a jack. Dwan, reaching for chips, fires 43,700.
The river is an offsuit jack, and all of a sudden Tom Dwan's play is looking pretty good. He's got top pair, top kicker, and is very likely good here. In fact, he's only really going to be behind if his opponent has a hand like 7-7, 3-3, maybe ace-2 suited. Hands like queens plus are going to be three-betting pre-flop, so he doesn't have to worry about those. And Antonius will mainly have either missed flush draws or pairs that decide to foot the flop and the turn. So now he can bet the river, feeling very safe about his value bet. Maybe Antonius could have jacks, but that's very unlikely given that he has a jack and there's a jack on the board. So given the flop and the turn action, I do like this river bet, and you could mix in some bluffs like some missed flush draws.
And Antonius makes it 135,000.
You got raised.
You get the feeling Durrrr wasn't expecting that.
He looks like the kid from Home Alone. They're shocked. What?
At this point, Antonius is just not buying it. And even though he has the second nut low, only 5-4 will be a worse hand of any hand you can possibly be dealt, he decides to make a move. Now, do we like this decision to make a move here with 6-4 of diamonds? I'm not a huge fan. Because the thing about 6-4 of diamonds is if Tom Dwan is bluffing, he's likely to have a hand like the 4 or the 6 of diamonds in his hand. A kind of flush draw that totally bricked, like maybe 6-5 of diamonds, 5-4 of diamonds, maybe like ace-5 of diamonds. So in order for him to be bluffing, he would maybe even need to have one of those cards in his hand. Although apparently he can just have random overcards, so what do I know, maybe it doesn't matter at all. I would prefer to see Antonius fold facing this $40-something thousand bet in the river, and then look to raise maybe a hand more like 7-8 of diamonds, or maybe a hand like ace-queen that floated the flop in the turn. Maybe some different hands that make a little more sense to bluff with than this hand specifically. But I like the premise. Tom Dwan's hand looks really weird. I actually don't even know what it looks like. I guess it kind of does look like he hit a jack, because he wouldn't be doing this with 8s anymore. It's too thin, or 9s or 10s. It's just too thin. So maybe it looks like he's either bluffing or river to jack. I'm not entirely sure. So when Antonius decides to raise to 135,000, he's basically saying, hey man, I have a boat. I have either 2-2, which is quads, or 3-3, 7-7, or jack-jack. He's not really saying he has anything less than that, but all of those hands are super reasonable for him to have. So this is a reasonable spot to bluff. Tom Dwan's hand does look weird, and it's hard to say what he really has. And I like the size that he decides to go here. It puts a lot of pressure on Tom Dwan if he river to jack. As we can see, Tom Dwan in a little trouble here. Back over to Tom Dwan, and now he has a serious decision. He's played this hand like an idiot and now has top pair. I guess at the end of the day, if you have top pair and you got there on the river, you can never make up too big of a mistake by just calling. But at the same time, Antonius will for sure have all of these strong hands like boats. So what will Tom do here facing the raise?
Here comes bets.
In a while, we might have to get some Dom Perignon on the set.
I don't know.
I don't drink till after midnight. It's in the rule of mine.
Towels.
It's good for weight loss.
Is it?
No.
What's up?
What do you think Tom has?
Looks like the way Tom's talking, he said he has an overpair, like aces, kings, or queens.
I call.
Because everything that he said, oh, he's going to call it. He's probably got an overpair, and see what Patrik has.
You got it.
You're right. What is it, ace king?
No, he actually got the jack on the river, so it was the same kind of hand as an overpair. It's jacks and ace, but same idea.
Sure.
And picked off a nice little bluff there.
There you go.
Thank you for joining me here for Poker Hands. And I also want to say this week will be the first episode of Table Talk with me and Joe Ingram Wine. You can check it out at dougpolk.tv on Twitch, Wednesday at 11 a.m. PST. Also, I'll be streaming at 5 p.m. PST on Mondays and Fridays at dougpolk.tv. Stop by, check it out, and say what's up.